What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Pennzoil 400 Top 5 DFS Picks video for Sunday, March 6th at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'm your host, Chris Pennell. You can find me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16, and this video is sponsored by Prize Picks. Today, we are going over general track strategy and how to approach the slate from a DFS perspective, and my top 5 overall favorite plays on the entire slate. Keep in mind, this video is being recorded pre-qualifying and practice, so my opinions and thoughts on some of these drivers can change throughout the weekend. Making sure you're up to date on the information that comes out over the course of Saturday and Sunday will be crucial to building DFS lineups this weekend. And if you want more updated and in-depth analysis, you can tune into Sunday's Live Before Lock with me and Phil, as we will break down the entire slate and answer all your questions on the Awesemo YouTube channel. So as I've mentioned the past couple of weeks, each race will present itself quite a different strategy. And while a certain strategy looks good on paper right now, it may change based off of what happens in practice and qualifying. I think we all saw that last week as some of the best drivers in the entire field ended up wrecking in practice or qualifying, which caused more of a Daytona type looking lineup construction, as we had several guys starting in the 30s that ended up being very popular plays. Because I head into the weekend saying we're probably not going to be stacking the back once again, because Auto Club, we're going to see guys up front dominating, picking up lap sled and fast apps. And while we did see some of that, it was more of a stack the back than I anticipated. But assuming that doesn't happen once again, we are looking at caring about dominators once again. Typically 2 per lineup at Las Vegas. If you look at the previous optimals, if you read Phil's article, he does go over this a little bit, but we're typically looking at 2 potential lap leaders in all of our lineups this weekend if you're looking to take down a tournament, as we have the most laps we've had at a race so far this season at 267, which means dominator points are going to be pretty important this weekend. So getting into the picks, starting with number 5, we have Chris Buescher at $6,500 on DraftKings, and also the same over on FanDuel at $6,500. And similar to my Daniel Suarez thesis last weekend, this is simply too cheap for a driver with top 15 upside at these track types each and every single time. I think these sites overreacted to his poor 35th place finish last week, but you got to keep in mind he had issues where he spun out, and some of those things are just out of his control. He is not a 35th place type driver, and $6,500 is incredibly cheap for a guy like Buescher, who is a top 15 machine at Vegas. 5 out of the past 6 races here. He's also consistently competing for top 15s and sometimes even top 10 finishes at mile and a half tracks last year. He's a great way to fit some studs up top at this very low price point. So moving on to number 4, we have Cindric at $7,700 on DraftKings and up to $8,000 on FanDuel. And while it can always be scary to trust a rookie, especially so early in the season, he's actually the NASCAR points leader right now, and he did bring home a 12th place finish last week, fresh off his win at the Daytona 500. And the 2-car has had some tremendous success in the past here, as Keselowski with Team Penske was always putting up very strong finishes. And I'm not saying he's as good as Brad Keselowski yet, but we know Cindric is a very talented driver and a very highly talented rookie. And in the Xfinity Series, Cindric was a constant dominator at Vegas, always getting lap lead points, and he certainly has some experience here. And as long as he's on the pole this week like he was last weekend, he should definitely be worth a look in DFS at this pretty suppressed price point, as Team Penske in general tends to run very well at this track. And for number 3, we have the number 3 car, and yes, I have used that joke twice this season, but you're going to have to get used to it if he keeps performing well. We have Dillon at $8,000 on DraftKings and $7,700 on FanDuel. And as I always say with Dillon, he is never an exciting roster, but he tends to go a bit overlooked despite his incredible consistency at these track types the past couple of years. He's fresh off a P2 last week at Auto Club, and that means he is now 12 for 13 at finishing inside the top 20 the past couple of seasons at these track types. And he's actually a perfect 12 for 12, 100% success rate if you're willing to remove his DNF at Michigan before, when he was running very, very well but happened to wreck out. So as boring as Dillon tends to be at a roster, and his price is kind of in that weird spot where you don't really want to take too many chances on him, because he tends to start kind of mid-pack or closer to the front, so it doesn't seem like there's much upside. But RCR tends to run pretty well at these tracks, and we saw that last week with his P2 finish, and Tyler Reddick was arguably the best car on the track as he was on his way to a huge DraftKings day before getting into an issue, and Byron and him ended up making some contact. But you know, like I said, Dillon's kind of boring, but sometimes boring is good. And I would take that weekly with AD, but he did show he has top 5 potential last week with his top 5 finish. And before we head into our next pick, I want to talk about our sponsor, Prize Picks. They offer a daily prop-based contest, and make sure you use code Awesemo for a $100 first match deposit bonus. There's no sharks, optimizers, or mass entries. 5-player lineups can add up to 10 times your entry fee. Use your knowledge of multiple sports with cross-sport entries. Download in the App Store, on Google Play, or play on PrizePicks.com. Use our free player props tool to help you make the best selections. Get 1 free month of Awesemo plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. You'll receive an email within 24 to 48 hours after to redeem your first free month of Awesemo plus Platinum. And coming in at number 2, we talked about dominators early, and we're definitely going to need a couple. So we'll start with our first one here, William Byron, $9,800 on DraftKings and $11,000 on FanDuel. And the bad luck continues for William Byron this season as he posted his second poor finish of the year in 2 races. But do not let the bad finishes fool you. He had one of the best cars in the field last week, and his ownership was only around 10%. He was 3rd in green flag speed, only behind Reddick and Jones, and that speed should carry over into Vegas as he was 5th and 1st in green flag speed ratings last season at this track. He's an excellent buy low dominator to pair with the one we're about to talk about next. And finally, my number 1 DFS player for the Pennzoil 400. You're going to have to get used to seeing this name quite often this season, but it's no other than last week's race winner and the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Kyle Larson. He's the most expensive driver on both sites at 11.3 on DraftKings and all the way up to $14,000 on FanDuel. But time and time again, he's proved he is worth these high price points. And he picked up right where he left off last year. He secured his first win of the 2022 season last week at Auto Club. He won this race last year, and he's in a prime position to do it once again. The pricing on DraftKings, while he is the most expensive driver, it's about $1,000 cheaper than I think it should be. So I would expect some pretty high ownership, but he's certainly a pretty tough fade. I'd rather get different elsewhere in my lineup. So to recap, at number 5, we have Chris Buescher, 4, Austin Cindric, 3, Austin Dillon, 2, William Byron, and number 1, Kyle Larson. And if you did end up enjoying this week's content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe on the channel. It really does help us out. And leave a comment down below whether you disagree or agree with the 5 drivers I have in this video. And feel free to leave your own comments and your own opinions on who you think are the top 5 picks this weekend. And if you're more up-to-date and updated analysis on this weekend's slate, we'll be live before lock, me and Phil answering all your questions and breaking down this DFS slate.